Welcome back to another episode of the Cruise Conversations podcast. I'm Frank.
And I'm Michael.
Today's episode is episode number 46, and we've got our friend Jeremy, the Cruising Bear, back on to give a review of the Harmony of the Seas. Let's jump into it. So, Jeremy, welcome back to the podcast. This is the Cruising Bear. This is your third time on the podcast, so the most frequent guests that we've had. So, welcome back again. Obviously, the people love you. We love having you on. We've gotten great feedback on your episodes, and honestly, your episodes do really well. So we want to keep bringing you back on, and we're excited to talk about Harmony of the Seas going out of Galveston. If you haven't caught Jeremy's past episodes, he did an episode on the Scarlet Lady on Virgin Voyages. He did a Norwegian Prima back-to-back, and now Harmony. So we're really excited to have him on this week. So go check out those episodes and go check out the Cruising Bear on Instagram as well. But as we previously mentioned, you live in Texas, so it's a really easy commute down to the port of Galveston. How was that process of getting to the port on April 14th for Harmony of the Seas?
It's super easy, man. It's an hour and a half drive I'm north of Houston, so it's only an hour and a half drive. Most times on the weekends, not bad. We left a little late. We had like 11:30 or 12 o'clock embarkation time, so we left a little bit late. There can be traffic sometimes getting down to Galveston. There's only two roads going over the bridge, but if there's no traffic, you're breezing right through. The Royal Port is at the very end of Harborside Drive, so you're passing the Carnival Port and you're way down the end there. You know, an easy traffic in and out. There's a nice loop to go around. They have parking right in front of the port. There's parking across from it too, but parking right in front of the port. It sells out, so if you're sailing out of Galveston, portofgalveston.com and find the one, I think it's North Lot, get it immediately because you park, walk up with your bags, and you're right there. It's great.
Yeah, that's good to know what parking, because I feel like when we've sailed out of Miami, like there's a good amount of parking decks. Like you're not necessarily thinking of that beforehand, but definitely good to know. Like you said, limited parking there. Look at it beforehand because you don't want to get there and have to go find somewhere off site or somewhere else to park.
A lot of people drive into Galveston from Oklahoma, Louisiana, Arkansas, because it's close enough to drive, save on the flight. So, yeah, they're going to, then of course all of Texas drives there. So it's going to be, you need to find some good parking there, and that's a good spot. There's a ton of parking places, but taking a shuttle when you're trying to get back to your car and all that mess can be a hassle. So parking at the port is primo for me.
Gotcha. Now, how was embarkation as a whole there at the port this time?
So this is my second time, and both times we showed up around 11:30. Walked in, walked right through. It's a gorgeous new one. They just built it last year, so it's a gorgeous new port. You walk in, you go up the escalators, walked right in, checked in, walked to security, walked through security after like three people in front of me, walked on the ship. It's great, super organized, super big, easy to do.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great because these ships are huge, lots of people. You gotta move people quickly in and out, and it's great that it's so efficient nowadays. So you walked on. This was your first time on an Oasis class ship. So you walked probably immediately on to the promenade for the first time. What were your first thoughts as you walked in onto the promenade?
Oh crap, that's a lot of people. So it was packed. Everybody walks in and they sit there and they stand there trying to figure out where am I going to go from here. It's such a big ship, so many options, and of course we're like, well, let's go do muster. And luckily our muster was right there. We went and did our muster. But yeah, it was a lot of people in promenade. I had been on the Adventure of the Seas, and they have a little promenade there. This is like twice the width and twice the length, and it's massive, man. It's beautiful.
It's crazy, Frank, because my first royal ship was Harmony too, and we did an episode back in the fall during hurricane season. We were supposed to be on Mariner of the Seas, got moved over to Harmony. So I just remember same thing. When I first walked into the promenade, I was blown away because I'd never seen just an area that big, like right when you get on the ship.
Yeah, the ship is long for sure, but I feel like the width is a good point. Like when you're up on the pool deck, well, we're going to talk about it too, but like the ship is just wide. It's like a behemoth. You have two sides of the pool deck separated by Central Park. When you look at that compared to like any other ship you've probably been on, there's nothing that's that like wide. The length is one thing, but the width of the thing, it's just massive.
I have a picture I took in November. We got off in Cozumel, and parked next to each other was the Harmony and the Ascent on its first sailing. And I mean, I show people the Ascent picture, like that's a big ship, and I have it next side by side, and I swear to God, it's half the width of Harmony. It's just it's I mean, it's hard to imagine how big they are. When I drove by it the first time, seeing it when we were in Galveston touring the Jubilee. I drove by and I was like, man, it's just so massive and so the back of it is so wide.
Yeah.
It's unreal how Royal's doing that.
I mean, I think the funniest thing too is when you see pictures from Cook Cay and you have either an Oasis glass ship or even Icon sitting there, and then next to it just a super old Freedom or Explorer or whatever's in port next to it, and I'm just like, yeah, the size comparison is just crazy.
Yes.
All right, so you got on the ship. What was the first thing you ended up doing when you got on the ship?
So we went over to muster. That went fairly smooth. I mean, for as many people as there are, they had a bunch of people there working it. They wanted to make sure they got everybody in and out. And then you have to go. Well, we had to go to Windjammer. We skipped breakfast, so we ran up to Windjammer. We met some people there. I was behind. I parked. My mom's in a scooter, so I let everybody off. I went and parked. I ran in, and then we met him up there, and we ate. And I was a little shocked on how it was set up. You're used to the buffets with the one long line, so they have the little stations. I feels like it moves really smooth, so it was easy to get food. You weren't waiting in line. There's one long line, and some guys at the end taking forever, and you're standing there waiting for them. There's a little part on the side, and they have the little stations. I think it moves people really fast for 6,500 people on a ship.
Yeah. Now, kind of jumping back to muster for a second, I know Royal, you can take advantage of doing some of it on your phone beforehand. Did you do that on the way to the port, or did you wait till you got on the ship?
We did. We did that on the way there. I think people in the car did. Some people did, some didn't. It went pretty smooth.
Yeah, that's honestly like we've said before, probably the best thing that came out of cruising, like with COVID,
Thank
just
God.
eliminating that. Because I mean, people that have probably cruised, 10, 15 years ago, that was like, you remember that. You're like, wow, we were, felt like we were like sardines in like a small room, or even on the side of the ship waiting for them to honk the horn 7 times. And now it's like, yeah, you just grab a drink, you hear it, but you're doing your own thing. You're probably already in the pool at that point, enjoying your cruise. So it's a huge difference.
It is, man. Like back in the day, you would you get on the ship, you'd eat, you're having a good time. You're on the ship for 2-3 hours, then they call muster, and then you gotta stop what you're doing. Everybody's runs out. The elevators are packed. You gotta take the stairs. You're standing on the deck. It's 95 degrees outside. Someone's right there in your face. You're looking at somebody's hair from the back.
Yeah.
Someone's not showing up, and someone's in their room still, and they keep calling. They can't until everybody gets there. It's an hour and a half process, eating into your fun. This is 5 minutes, 10 minutes tops on every cruise line, and it's the best thing that ever came out of COVID.
Yeah, for real. So you went to get some lunch. At some point, you probably got the call that your rooms are ready on the speaker. What kind of room did you guys book, and what did you think of the layout and the storage in that room?
So I booked an inside room with my sister. I was shocked. It's a nice big inside room. For an inside room, it's a nice size. Plenty of space, nice big sitting area. Really gorgeous room. A lot of space. Bathrooms about what you would expect. The person I was traveling with, ABH Destinations, she had a solo ocean view room. It was like one of the last rooms on the ship.
Oh, wow.
So I stayed in there a lot of the time. It's for a solo person, it's great. I mean, it's smaller. There's no sitting area. There's one little thing. I mean, the bathroom's smaller. Everything's kind of like half a size. For 2 people, it's a little cramped, but for a solo person, it's what you need.
I'm actually kind of surprised because we know Royal doesn't do as many solo rooms as some other lines. So I'm surprised, like last minute, that was still available to book.
I don't know. There was one left, and it was gone, and then it came back again, and that was like, well, we'll book her on there. She wasn't booked on there yet. So yeah, it was like Wednesday before. So it was like the last one there.
All right. Well, like you said, you dropped your stuff off at your room now. And next thing you know, I mean, you're sailing away. What did you end up doing for sail away? Did you do anything fun?
So it was her first time on a ship. So I was like, well, let's go stand on a railing and watch us sail away. And then there was no railing space. There was just no place to stand. There's so many people and everybody wants to do it. Luckily, my parents had a balcony room. My mom was in there napping, so we knocked on the door. My dad let us in the balcony. And we sat on his balcony and watched the sail away. It was right. The pilot boat was right underneath there, so she got to see the pilot come in and then take him away. And then we went up to Went near the pool deck, near Bites, whatever, and had a table there, and just sat there and talked with the group we were with, and just enjoy the. It was a nice evening outside before dinner. So yeah, it was nice.
Sweet. Now, like we said, this is the third time we've had you on the podcast, and like you've mentioned, you're out of Galveston, and we talked about how the itineraries are pretty much like pretty similar each time. So some of these stops we've talked about with you in the past, but let's kind of just go over what you did this time. So your first stop was Honduras. You were in Roatan. What did you guys end up doing here for the day?
If I haven't mentioned it before, I'll say it again. Roatan is gorgeous. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful spot, and they finished the pool. I was there in January and February, and they were doing a bunch of construction. And I got there in April, and the pool is done. They're still doing construction. They're really building. It's Cox and Hole, obviously, Princess and Carnival. They go to Mahogany Bay. This is Cox and Hole, just around the corner, and it's gorgeous. It's wonderful. So when we got up there, we got a tour. We were looking to go see some animals, and then go to the chocolate factory. So we went out, talked to someone, got a tour. It was like $35 a person. It was a van with AC. They took us to the one of the higher points where you're overlooking everything and seeing the whole town, and some really good pictures up there. And then they took us over to one of the places. They have sloths, they have monkeys, they have birds, and so we got to go. We got the monkeys crawling on your head, and you're feeding these exotic birds sunflower seeds, and then we went and got to hold some sloths. That's really cool. So that was my first time actually holding sloths. I've never done that before. Normally, I just either if we go to the beach or we just go. We went to Little French Key before, but this was a good one. Then we went to the chocolate factory. You don't eat the cocoa bean when they give it to you, even though they suggest you do. Don't do it. It is horrible. Uh, it's not good. And then you can sample some chocolates and buy some chocolate. They have they have like chili chocolate and ones with different nuts in it and milk chocolate. So I would definitely sample all the chocolates, and it's good. It doesn't melt the way it's made. It's not going to melt. So if you're carrying it around the island with you, so it's an experience. And then we found a little bar. They dropped us off there. They had a little swing, and we ate and we had some drinks. We could get off and get in the water and just enjoy the beautiful day out there. It was a wonderful, wonderful experience.
That's awesome. That sounds great. And I think I need to go back to Roatan and just do some of these really cool exotic things, right? A lot of my cruises have been Eastern Caribbean, and I like the Eastern Caribbean route. And actually, I was just talking. My mom's getting on Icon today, and she's going Eastern. And I'm like, you really should just change it up a little bit and try going back to Cozumel. Try going back to it's changed a lot over the years, right? Going back to Costa Maya and Roatan, and it's just again you get an extra port day on those itineraries, right? So from Florida, you have 4 ports usually. You got Coco Cay, you've got Cozumel, Costa Maya, and Roatan, and then for you guys, obviously, you're doing the 3. But it sounds beautiful. I would really want to check it out. So, in terms of your recommendation for this port, you're kind of like an expert at this time. What would you recommend people do when they go to Honduras?
Man, there's a lot to do. I mean, there's if you're just looking for a beach, there's places to go. There's places like Little French Key or other little places, the little keys there, and they can take a boat around to the beach. They have some animals there. My daughter swam with sharks there one time.
Wow.
It was crazy. Yeah. If you're looking for an animal experience, you can do that, and then they'll take you to the beach afterwards. They've got 100 tours there, a bunch of people outside. It's pretty organized on Cox and Hole. So they have a place inside the port of getting your passport stamps in port, and they have a place inside the port that'll stamp your passport. It's really easy to do. It's nothing cost. You just donate money, and so you can. There's beaches there are gorgeous. The water's clear, man. It's so clear. It's something for everybody there for sure.
That's awesome. So your next stop was Costa Maya. What did you guys end up doing at Costa Maya?
If you heard me go to Costa Maya before, you've heard this before. We got off the ship and shopped and looked around the port, sat, had a drink. It was hot. We walked around a lot and got back on the ship. Next time I go, I'm going to try, there's the Lucky Lobster or something like that, or I think that's what it's called. I'm definitely going to try that next time I go because I keep hearing great things about it. We already had plans at one place, and we were just looking to explore the port. We shopped a little bit. She had never been there before, and then we wanted to get back on the ship and beat the crowd a little bit, so we did that.
Nice. Yeah, like I said, I've done Costa Maya too. Loved it. Same with Roatan. I mean, they're both just beautiful ports overall. And I know last time I did this itinerary, I actually didn't get off at Cozumel, but your third stop of the cruise was Cozumel. What did you guys end up doing here?
I did not get off at Cozumel.
Just like me.
I'm going back in May. We're going to Paradise Beach in May, and so we got off. We didn't get off. We went to eat breakfast a little bit later, let the crowds clear out. We got on the ship and just hung out at the top of the ship for a long time, taking in the views all the way around the ship, seeing the pool deck with that many people on it. We actually got in the pool, got to experience all the stuff that, 6,500 people, even though there are two pools and there's a kid spot and there's tons of places to sit down, it's still, there's a lot of people around. And we got a chance to sit in the pool and enjoy that without 6,000 people staring at you.
Well, yeah, that sounds like a good day. Just like you said, chill day, just staying on the ship and be able to use some of those amenities that, like you said, were much more crowded kind of some of the other days, especially because next we're talking about your sea days, because I'm sure sea days now probably feel a little more crowded than some of these port days on Harmony of the Seas. So you guys ended up having 3 sea days on this cruise. What did your typical sea day routine look like, and what were some of like your favorite things you did on your sea days?
We made sure to hit Central Park every day because that's for me the best part of the ship, and it's a gorgeous spot. They have food there for breakfast and lunch, so we made sure we did that. We were my group with my parents and some of their friends and my sister, and it was kind of a chill trip. My last one there was a lot of drinking and partying. This one was, it's kind of a sit around, catch up. We played some games. We sat there and enjoyed the views a lot. It was a lot of that stuff. Evening time, we went to some shows. But our sea days were very low key. There were
I like that.
there were a couple naps, yes.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like for my sea days on the Oasis class, I'm like going Central Park, or maybe if I do like a dining package, I'll do one of the specialties for lunch, and then I typically go to the solarium and just like lay out. Like I don't leave the solarium. Like I'm that annoying guy that I'll put my stuff down, and I'm gonna go out for lunch for about 90 minutes, and I'm gonna be right back in that chair just looking at the ocean, and then going in the hot tubs and stuff. But no, that's awesome, Jeremy. Glad that you were able to get some time to just really unwind and enjoy the cruise. Really. So now let's talk about food, right? So the Oasis class has so many. I mean, it's probably known more for their food and their entertainment, right? So dining, you got a lot of free options. You got Cafe Promenade, Park Cafe, Sorrento's, the Solarium Bistro, Doghouse, Mini Bites, main dining room, Johnny Rockets breakfast. Those are a ton of options. Talk us through just, some of your favorite options when it came to the free food on board.
Park Cafe was really stood out to me. They have the that roast beef sandwich that you recommended to me, and I had it like 6 times. It was great, and by 6 times I mean sometimes twice in a day. So
That's awesome.
it was great. They have breakfast there. A lot of some grab and go easy stuff, and they make salads there, really good salads, and they have the sandwich and they have soups. It's never really crowded. You can always walk in there, grab your food, and be done with it. If you want to avoid a crowd at the Windjammer and try a little something different, it's a nice view, especially on sea days. There's a nice view. There's a nice breeze coming through Central Park, and it keeps it nice and cool. On port days, it can get warm if the sun's blasting in there, but it was really nice. We did Johnny Rockets for breakfast. She had was the bacon maple shake.
Yeah.
That's unique. I did not. I tried to thing. Maple shakes are not my thing. I can eat the bacon,
Yeah.
But again, good breakfast sandwiches. I had that breakfast burger thing. That was really good.
It's just a nice option that you get away from, like, again, avoiding the windjammer during the hottest time of the day where everyone wakes up and wants breakfast. I feel like lunch, you can stagger it a little bit easier. Like if I go early or late, you miss the crowd. But breakfast is just like that window. Everyone's eating at the same time, and the Johnny Rockets thing, it just provides, like, again, I think the food's a little better because they're cooking it for you, right? Versus the eggs are out for everyone to grab that scoop and touch it. And I'm like, oh gosh, the germs. But yeah, that's just me personally. I prefer just to do something easy, and I actually really like for breakfast too. When they bring them to your room, like the room service for the free room service, right? So they can bring you like the continental, just like coffee and just a quick, easy like croissant or something. Because again, I don't eat a huge breakfast every day, but there's definitely some options. Sorry, go ahead, keep going with some of the other free.
My parents are big dining room for breakfast people. They love to get up and go to the dining room for breakfast, sit down, have it served to them. That they love Denny's here, so it's like being at Denny's a little bit for them. So they love doing that. The great thing, Johnny Rockets is a upcharge for everything else, but breakfast is free, like you said. It's a steal, but you got to get there, a little bit before they close because there's a line a lot of times. It's popular, it's good, so make sure you at least get up a little early one day and hit that. Windjammer's great. A lot of options. There's always a lot of options. In the morning,
Yeah.
there's the omelet station. There's the pasta station. There's the stir fry station in the back. There's tons of desserts. hot and cold. There's burgers. There's a spot that doesn't really change. It's burgers and fries and hot dogs and chicken tenders, and they have all the other meats and then salads and everything. So if you can't find something to eat there, you're probably a little too picky.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, they got things for just about anybody there in the Windjammer at any time of day, really. Breakfast, lunch, dinner. Let's get to talk dinner a little. I mean, you mentioned the main dining room, doing dinner there. How would you say the service was in the main dining room? I know we've mentioned on the podcast in the past they've kind of changed the menus up over the last year or so. Was there any specific menu night that you enjoyed?
They had an Italian night. We enjoyed that a lot. I did order extra dishes on the Italian night to try some different stuff. And we enjoyed it. We had 7 people in our group, and the service was outstanding. Our waiter was great, very attentive. So the food was good. As always, not everything's going to taste great to you, and you can get if it doesn't, you just get something new, and they'll bring it to you. They'll take care of you. They're great.
Yeah, I mean, that's the same way I feel with the main dining room, right? Like, there's so many options, and I honestly like love the appetizers, right? There's so many. I'll get like 3 or 4 appetizers, and then I'll get like 2 entrees. But it's just like the apps are so good, and they're not big, so you have to order more than one, and then the entrees are a good size. But if you get 2, you definitely just get to try more food, and yeah, it's again the food I would say is all average or above. There's going to be some things that you may not like as much, or maybe but then there's going to be things that surprise you, where it's like, oh wow, that was actually really good. So I would say everything's definitely, it's what you would expect, right?
Don't skip a desserts either, because you get multiple desserts, and that does happen.
Yeah, the desserts are great, and I do like the service. I think having the same servers, if you can do it. I've heard the lines for my time are crazy right now, and across the fleet, I would make sure that everyone has in your party a reservation, right? So the process on Royal is a little bit different than other lines. I think that they need to revamp it. But to say, to go on to the app beforehand, make sure you've got your reservations for every night. That way you're just set. You don't have to bother with showing up. And there's usually 2 lines, right? There's like the one for reservations and one without reservations. And if you don't have a reservation, it's just going to be, it's why even go through that. So
Night one was insane. So we had actually early dining, and apparently a big group came, and they kind of canceled some people's early dining without telling them. That was kind of a bummer. We ended up having to eat at 7 every night dining there. We went early, and we got 7 every single night. And the first night was a madhouse. We didn't sit down until almost 7:30. It was crazy. We were a little worried the next day, a little less people, and then by the 3rd day, it was all worked out. Everybody had all the kinks worked out. We walked up, sat down. We were sitting before 7 o'clock every day. They did work it out really fast.
Good. So specialty dining, I didn't list out all. I'm not going to go through every single option like I did for the other one, but I mean, again, that's one of the things where people they like on the Oasis class, right? You got all the restaurants within Central Park. You've got, a ton of different choices there. Did you guys end up doing any specialty dining on your cruise?
We did, and we got a little break. We were at lunch, and like I think we were in Cozumel or Costa Maya. One of the guys came up and offered us a discount, because they will do that if they. It was the formal night, and I guess they were needing some people, so they offered us a discount, a nice discount. So yeah, we'll book it. So we went to Chops Grill, and man, if you haven't eaten there, you got to go. It was fantastic. The sides were great. My steak was wonderful. The desserts were great. I mean, it's great. I keep saying great. There's no other way to describe it. I mean, it's
Yeah.
outstanding. Afterwards I got off there, and I booked Chops Grill for my cruise, on the Mariner in a couple weeks, because I wanted to go eat there again. So
I will say honestly, I've never eaten at Chops on any royal ship or any cruise in general. I've never actually eaten at the steakhouse. And me and my wife actually went out to dinner last night, and we ordered a steak. We split a steak and salmon, and we were talking. And growing up, we went to like Outback or Longhorn. I'd get a steak, broccoli, baked potato. And I guess as I've grown older, I've just like started to like more things. And then last night she's like, "Oh no, like I really do enjoy a good steak too." So next time we're on a ship, I may actually have to go to the steakhouse now.
Yeah, I think I've done Chops a couple times, obviously on Royal Caribbean. I love it. I think the steak. I mean, it's for me. I really think that like the service is the biggest difference when it comes to the specialty dining. They definitely put their best servers. It's not even like it's known, right? Like their best servers are going to be in the specialty restaurants. The service is going to be great. They're all polished and everything. I'm not saying that it's going to be bad in the main dining room. It's just going to be a little step up. And then the food obviously is going to be great. My favorite on the Oasis class is 150 Central Park because I love like the venison and just like it's a different vibe because it's just a different menu than a normal steakhouse. But I've always had a good time at Chops. And to your point, the sides and the desserts are like the cheesecake was just like ridiculous. Like the New York cheesecake that they have, it's just like
Yep.
awesome. So I'm glad that you enjoyed it.
All right, so kind of switching from food now, going to entertainment. Like we mentioned at the top, the Oasis class has so much great entertainment on these ships, from ice shows to aqua shows to their Broadway musicals on the ship. I know Harmony has Grease on it, comedy, music going on throughout the park. What did your evenings look like entertainment wise? What did you end up doing? What did you enjoy? Were you able to see some of these different types of shows on the ship?
So I didn't go to the musicals. I'm not a big musical guy. We had some family go. The Grease one was okay. They said it was wasn't their cup of tea, but it's not like the performers were bad. It's just the way it was done. So we
Yeah.
did an aqua show, and I guess there's two different aqua shows. There's one that's more artsy, I would say. And then there's one that's just a lot of acrobatic stuff. And unfortunately, we booked the artsy one for us. They did some acrobatic stuff. It was awesome, but I would have rather seen the other one. We went and saw the ice show. I thought the ice show was fun. It was creative. They did some interesting stuff with cameras and the ice and the floor to make the floor look, the ice look like it was different, moving, and it was interesting. It was a good time. We listened to a lot of music. They had a nice Bruno Mars, Whitney Houston night and Razzles. I think it was called Razzles, and
Yep.
we sat there. It was packed. Music was great. We had a wonderful night there. There's in the evening times in Central Park. You're sitting out there. It's all lit up. It's gorgeous. There's a breeze going and there's music playing. You can sit there all night long. It's wonderful. There's a lot of places to sit for music. There's the pubs, there's Sorrento's. There's not Sorrento's. Sorrento's the pizza place. Sorry, it's right next to Civil War, right? So
Yeah.
there's music everywhere. We listen to there's a piano guy at the Schooner Bar. You can't go wrong.
Yeah, totally agree there. And I like that they have such a wide variety. Like you said, you can be in the pub, jamming out. If you're Frank, just smacking the walls throughout the people's performances. But then you can go to Central Park and just have like a nice tranquil, just like sit out there with a drink, glass of wine, old fashioned, whatever, and just listen to the quieter like ambiance overall. So it's just so cool. They have, like I said, just totally so many different types of music and entertainment all around the ships. How about any other types of entertainment? Did you do any sort of like trivia, game shows, bingo around the ship, or spend some time in the casino? We know you typically spend some time in the casino. Did you get to do any of that this sailing?
Oh, we spent a lot of time in the casino. We did. We had two people in our crew get free cruises because they have a great casino program. We got some offers from off because I was not as lucky as some of the others, but we had a good time. My only downside is that it's a giant casino. It's smoking. They have a small non-smoking casino. I wish it would have been reversed. It's just tough sitting there seeing somebody blowing smoke in your face for 2 hours. It's kind of a bummer. That's one of my only drawbacks with that. It's all smoking there, so it's a little bit rough.
Yeah, I think they've got to do something with that. I mean, it's been there's a lot of complaints. The problem is they have so many people that just enjoy the smoking section, and there's not a lot of smoking sections on the cruise.
Yeah.
Right? It's either that or the port side on the pool deck. So those are the only options. You're not allowed to smoke on your balcony. So it's always a tough thing. I think we need to put out an episode though, Michael, just on the casino program and the free cruises and stuff, because it's pretty lucrative, right? Like, I mean, if you're like, I'm willing to lose X amount, you can have like 3 to 4 different free cruises based on how you do. Obviously it's a risk, all that, but I think we do need to dive into that a little bit more. But yeah, glad you had a good time, and the game shows are always fun as well. And we enjoyed that on our last cruise.
I didn't get to do any game shows. We normally do trivia, but we never really hit trivia this time. I just, like I said, there was a lot of hanging around and catching up, and you sit down and you eat breakfast, and then you're talking for 2 hours, and then next thing you know, it's almost lunchtime, and
Yeah.
you gotta go, or you want to go to your room and take a nap before lunch, and then that's kind of how it ended up being a lot of the time during the day.
I know we had Chris come on the podcast after my cruise last year on Oasis, and he was raving about Central Park. I personally, that's my favorite area on the ship as well, so I related a lot to him. Sounds like you also really enjoyed it, Jeremy. How would you describe it for someone who's never been on an Oasis class ship?
Well, I'll say it was one of my favorite parts on any ship I've been on. If you've been on Celebrity, they have the little grass area or the garden park, whatever. I was shocked. I mean, you see pictures of it, but until you get on there, it honestly feels like you're not on a ship. It's a really crazy feeling. They pipe in like some sounds sometimes, especially at night, and you think it'd be cheesy, and it's not. It's a different. It puts it ambiance at a whole new level. The lighting is, I mean, it's gorgeous. I mean, we walked on there. I wanted to go the first day, and we couldn't really get during the day. It's at nighttime. We finished dinner. I was like, I want to go walk through. I want to see it. And I was like, oh, this is it. This is the best. I'm gonna spend every day here. This is it. I mean, the lighting alone is just. It's hard to explain. It's super relaxing, and especially at night when there's a nice breeze while the ship's going, you can sit out there for hours. It's quieter. The music they're playing is not intrusive. There's not speakers music pumping in. Not a lot of kids running around screaming. It feels like almost like an adult place. There are little kids there, but it's not really a place for kids. Kids aren't going to enjoy sitting there for 2 hours. So it's kind of an adult retreat a little bit.
Yeah, couldn't have said that any better myself. I know, same here. It's one of my favorite spots on the Oasis class ship. So glad to see that you enjoyed it as well. Now, the next thing, the Oasis class ships have tons of activities all around the ship, from mini golf to flow riders, zip lining, escape rooms. I know they do laser tag on the ice skating ring, some like sea days. Did you end up doing any of these activities or during your sea days?
So ABH Destinations had challenged me to mini golf, and I told her I was going to kick her butt, and then we just never did. We looked at it like we got to do this, and then just never did. We were either eating or napping or in the casino or at a show or listening to music somewhere, and we wanted to do a couple things, and we just never did any of it. It was an older crowd for us. We were, the youngest person's almost 40, so we didn't do zip lining. She wanted to do zip lining, but it's a little iffy. The line gets long. We weren't going to do surfing. We weren't going to do rock climbing. So, and we kind of missed out on a couple opportunities, which is fine because next time Oasis, I'll make sure I go back and make sure I do some of those things.
Yeah, and then the ultimate abyss slides on the back. You got to get down the slide at some point, Jeremy. Getting the hacky sack thing.
I saw on the Prima the people getting stuck inside that, and then they slide a little bit and having to inchworm their way along. I'll never get in one of those slides ever now. That scared me. Be stuck in. I'm a big guy. Get stuck in there and had to flush me out.
No, but you brought up a really good point, right? Like there's so many things to do that like it's almost like 1 week. If you're really going to enjoy the ports, 1 week is not enough time. Like if you're going to go and enjoy I'm not saying like go on a cruise and just sit on the ship because I don't think that's worth it either. Yeah. But if you're really going to do everything, 7 days with all the ports, it's just going to be tough to do everything you want to do, right?
It is, and I've had some clients going, and I try and tell them even before I went on. You hear a lot of people from you guys and others. You're not going to do everything, and don't try and do everything. You'll end up running yourself ragged, and it won't be as much fun. Pick the things you want to do, stick to those, and then book another one. A year or two down the road, and say, "We did this last time. I'm going to try this now." I think that's a lot of cruising. Some people try and do everything and they miss out on stuff, or they only do it for a few seconds. And you kind of can't really enjoy everything. I think you need to pick the things you want to do, kind of identify them early. And some people like to get on and go with the flow, and that's great. We like to plan it. So, go on there, book your shows early. Figure out what you're going to do. See what they have available. And don't try and get everything done. Find the stuff you really want to try. And the stuff you missed, go try it next time.
So kind of like we mentioned at the start, these ships are huge. I mean, you have about 6,500 people on these things at max capacity. How did you feel the crowds were across the ship? Did you feel like they were well dispersed? Were there some areas you could feel it more than others?
And like we were talking about, with so many things to do, you'd think with 6,500 people that you'd be shoulder to shoulder everywhere you go, and it's not. Didn't have a whole lot of lines. A lot of people at the pool deck because everybody wants to do that. Everybody wants to be in the sun when you're out in the Caribbean. But even then, they weren't. It's not like the pool was sardines in there. It was great. They do a really good job on the Oasis class ships of making sure the people are dispersed, making sure there are plenty of things for you to do. You can be in the sun. You can be inside. You could go to the card room and play games. You could go to Central Park and sit. You could go to the boardwalk. There's places for kids. There's places for adults. There's places for young adults. It's so well built and spaced that there's no real giant crowds where you can't get around. The only thing that's might be a little rough are the aft elevators at dinner and lunchtime, because everybody needs to go up to the buffet and everybody wants to come down to dinner, and that's about the only time. But other than that, you don't really feel 65. And there are times you're like, man, there's a lot of people here. but it doesn't really feel like it. Like there's not like I was sitting in a spot like a line of 200 people in front of me, except for at Bites, at the Bites place by the pool. That can get a long line. That's about the only spot.
See, I think I've just gotten lucky, Frank, because like we mentioned, our Harmony sailing together, there was hardly anybody on it. And then even when I did Wonder, it was over in Europe, and I know we weren't at max capacity either. So I don't know. I guess the day will come someday. I'm on a much more crowded Oasis class ship, but
We can't
I don't
always
know.
have COVID cruising with half people, and that was amazing.
Well, neither one of these were COVID either. That's the crazy
Oh,
part.
really? Wow.
Well, like we mentioned all the time, all good cruises have to come to an end at some point. So you got back to Galveston. How was the disembarkation process overall?
So we had a little bit of a weird one. My mom had a medical emergency before the last night. She heard something in her throat started swelling and she couldn't swallow, so they had to bring her down. So we had to get her off, and I mean didn't seem like it was life threatening. They took care of her. They did a great job. They really did. We had to go and take her to the hospital and make sure. And we are about an hour and a half away from the hospital we were going to go to. So they were going to set up to get us off early. There's a bit of a miscommunication, but they took care of us. They gave us a little, as soon as we all got together, they kind of rushed us out, let us get out pretty early. They let us go down the elevator, and using a scooter early. But even then, even the get off I saw for the walk off crowd was very simple. It was very organized. For again, 6,500 people, you think it'd be a nightmare getting off. And I've been on ships with 4,000, that was a nightmare getting off. But not this one. This was an easy get off. And then with your parking right there, you kind of come off to the side. One person can go with the car and swing around and get somebody. There wasn't a long line trying to pick them up. I almost sprinted to our truck, and I sped around and got everybody in, and we got out of there pretty quickly.
Yeah, so sorry to hear about your mom and everything. Hopefully she's okay, and glad that the cruise line was able to be there for you guys and manage the situation well. Because yeah, no one wants to deal with any kind of health emergency when you're away from your house and your normal doctors and situations. So glad that all worked out. And yeah, I've never had an issue getting off an Oasis class ship. I mean, it's always been, I'm always the person that I like to get off as soon as I can. So as soon as the ship, I just think it's easier the earlier you go rather than having them trying to wake you up and knock on the door. But I mean, I try to get off at like 8 o'clock, and I've never really waited too long. Maybe there's a line, but it's always moving really fast, right? So now let's kind of talk. I think you bring a very interesting perspective because you've been on a lot of cruises, right? You've done a lot of different cruise lines. You've done Norwegian, you've done Celebrity, you've done Princess, I believe, Virgin. So let's kind of talk through how you compare this cruise against other cruises and Royal too, right? It's a family cruise line, very different than Virgin. It's not really apples to apples, but how would you kind of compare the service and things that you can compare, like the rooms and all that? How would you kind of compare the overall experience you had?
So if you're going on certain things, like we'll look at decor, right? It's a 2014 ship, so it's got that. It was just coming out of that, the wood and brass stage, but it's still nice. But the newer ships with that modern decor I really like. Saw it on the Prima, and you see it on the Seascape, and you see it on Virgin. But this was a nice ship. I mean, it's not, for 10 years old. It's not beat up. It's not worn out. There are things that need to be fixed because it's 10 years old, but it's still a nice ship. It's hard. Like I said, it's hard to compare, right? There's a lot of kids. I mean, even for mid-April, or it was still a lot of kids. It wasn't spring break, and there were probably a couple thousand kids on board. At least it felt like it. So you can't really compare that to when I went on the Prima, there was many kids, and you go to on Virgin, there's no kids. So if I compare it to other Carnival NCL sailings, I'd say it's near the top. The ship it's outstanding. It's big. There's so much to do. There's when you're on. I've been on some of the older Carnival ships and the older Royal ship. You kind of feel like I've done this, and you can circle back to the thing you've done. You don't have to circle back to anything on these. So it puts it in a class of its own. A ship that size can't be compared to anything else. You have to put this ship in a class by itself. You maybe can put Breakaway or Icon in there, but it's the most well dispersed crowd you could probably have on a large ship, and I would recommend it to everybody.
Well, is there anything you would have done differently throughout the sailing?
I would have done differently. I would have. I kind of slacked on booking the shows. I guess the Aqua show. I should have researched the Aqua show a little more and found out which one I thought would be more suited for me. I would have played some mini golf. I would have done some trivia. I would have maybe tried one more specialty restaurant if I could have. But again, like I said, it's just, now I have to book another one, right? That's how it goes, right? I can't let somebody else have all the fun and me not know about it. So, it's going to be far in the future because I'm booked all the way through the beginning of 2026. But I'll get on there again.
You will. You will. I'm confident we'll find a good sailing for you to jump on board. Harmony is great. I love it. I personally like the Grease musical, right? I think it's one of the best ones in the fleet in terms of musicals. I know you didn't try it. That may be something else you should try next time. The show's 30 days out. You just gotta set an alarm or a calendar thing and knock it out. But all those things that they do is just to make it so once you get on board, it's just easier, right? Like booking the shows, you don't have to deal with that. And I'm glad that you had a great experience. I think that your review is meaningful versus us coming on here and talking about it, because I'm obviously a big Royal Caribbean guy and I've done it so many times. So for you to come on here, provide an experience, like your experience is so valuable, so meaningful. So thank you. And hopefully that this, is a guide for someone who's coming on for the first time, what to do, what to avoid. I think this was really, really helpful. So we'll get you back on there. You'll get to do it again and hit all those things that you didn't get to do the first time. But thank you so much, Jeremy, for coming on the podcast. We really appreciate the time, and we look forward to having you on again.
I'm always happy to be here. I love doing it. I got to book more cruises so I can make sure I come on more. So you guys are my reason for more cruises.
Yeah, speaking of booking another one, we've got some great deals. Jeremy and I, we're all agents now, and we're all working for the same agency. And what's crazy is we have great price advantages. And I think I tell people this, like $500 to $1,000 off the website price, and they're like, "You're trying to scam me. This isn't real." But like, we'll send you the cruise conversation or the cruise invoice before you even see that you have to pay a credit card. Like, we can do it before you even have to put your credit card, but you have to see some of these prices. Jeremy, I think you looked up some of the Harmony rates. What is it looking like right now?
Yeah, so like we talked about before, Galveston goes Roatan, Costa Maya, Cozumel, maybe Belize. They're running some 8 days out of Galveston on the Harmony that's going to hit all the way to Coco Cay. So finally, people from Galveston can make it over to the Bahamas and go to Coco Cay on an Oasis class ship. But yeah, I mean, you look at the pricing, and like, you can get there as low as $2,500 per for a room, for an ocean view balcony room for two people, $2,450. That's, I mean, you're not going to find that on the website. You're not. That we can offer extra onboard credit. It makes it super easy to book. Royal Caribbean, it really does. It's an advantage that someone who's not working with a travel agent can never get. It's just, I mean, up until I was a travel agent, I never booked with a travel agent. But knowing what I know now, especially with things like Royal, where our company has such a great relationship with them, and the kind of prices we can get, I would never book by myself on a Royal cruise.
Yeah, so I mean, like you said, you hear the rates that we're talking about. I mean, if you live in Texas, anywhere around there, West Coast, I mean, anywhere where getting to Texas may be easier than going all the way to Florida, reach out to us. I mean, like we said, we'd love to get you booked on any of these sailings.
Houston's a Southwest hub, so they have a giant one. It's south of town, so it's not like you're driving. There's two airports. Southwest is Hobby, which is only about 45 minutes away from Galveston, so it's not a far drive. You can rent a car, or even if you take an Uber to the hotel over there, it's not terrible. But yeah, I mean, it's anywhere from $2,400 to $3,500 for two people in a balcony room, ocean view balcony, not boardwalk balcony, ocean view balcony. So it's a hell of a deal. We have prices on the Icon that people can't touch. Prices on the Star coming up that people can't touch. So absolutely.
So with that, we're going to wrap up this week's episode of the podcast. Thank you so much for listening to another week, and we look forward to seeing you back here next Wednesday.